If there's one thing that helped me tremendously in getting high grades, it would be having a solid study schedule. You don't have to follow precisely what someone else does. But the reason I want to share the schedule that I used during high school is first to serve as some inspiration, but also to give you a more realistic view on how much I studied. And this is how my schedule started. So I wake up at around 6. Now I'm actually not too much of a morning person, so it's actually 6:30 that I get out of bed. Then I wash, have breakfast, which is usually oats because I'm boring, but back to the B-roll. Then I leave to catch the train, which is around 7:21. And during busy periods of the term, I actually do some light study on the train, if you're wondering, but this is usually just looking at some notes or some flashcards on my phone. So it's quite convenient and it's not too hard to set up. But overall, I found it to be a very good idea to make use of any dead time you have during the day. Then I arrive at my school, which is in the city, at around 8:15, and then just kind of chill until 8:30 classes. So that was basically my morning schedule. And now I want to move on to what I did during the actual school day. Now, of course, everyone is going to be different because we go to different schools, but I still have a few useful tips if you're serious about effective time management. So in class, there's usually times where you can get started working on an assignment or homework task. And the goal I set myself in year 12 was to finish as much homework as I could before I actually got home. And that sounds like common sense, but I still remember the days where I used to play cool maths games at the back of class. So the obvious benefit is that it will save you time studying once you actually get home. But I also found it more effective in some cases because you're already in this classroom environment, so it's easier for me to stay focused as opposed to, let's say, studying in my bedroom. Now, I understand that sometimes it can be a bit distracting in class because there's always those people playing games. But so another thing that I did, which I found very productive, is to just ask the teacher questions, whether that be about the homework questions or about an upcoming assignment, etc. But basically, this just saves you time from emailing them after school because typically I would just get ghosted. Yeah. Okay, so anyways, school finishes at around 3:30. So after school, I just take the train back and I usually get home at around 4:30 to 4:45-ish. I typically rest for 15 minutes, eat a bit, and then I begin my first study session at 5. And each study session for me was about 1 hour, which I found optimal to get into a flow or concentrated state. And if you're wondering about what I studied during these sessions, I actually think it's pretty obvious. So is it a set of questions or an essay? I don't think that's actually something that we struggle with. I think, for me at least, what was hard was actually taking action, but also taking action consistently. And this is why I had this schedule in the first place, to make sure that I was always taking action the first thing I get home. And then after this main study session, I usually take a break, exercise for like 30 minutes. And I used to do cross country when I was high school, so I usually just go for a run. And I feel like the exercise really helps me refresh my mind and allows me to stay focused during the next hour of study, which is between 6:30 to 7:30. So then I have dinner, and afterwards, if I was still very busy, so let's say I had a test or an exam coming up, then I might fit in another study session. But if I did not have anything on, then I usually just call it a day here. And one more thing is that I tried to sleep before 10:30 because I knew that I had to wake up very early next day for school. And that's what a usual school day looked like. Now, for weekends or the holidays, it's kind of the same logic in the sense that I had these 1 hour study blocks, but basically I just spread them throughout the day. And the reason why my schedule during these times was not fixed was because it's highly dependent on, let's say, extracurriculars, socials, or family events. So that's why I think it's good to be quite flexible in your study times and then just base your study blocks around what commitments you have. And in terms of the total amount of hours that I studied, so when I was less busy, I would just study for 1 to 2 hours. But in year 12, it's usually quite hectic, so I would tend to study for around 4 to 6 hours. Now, with that being said, it's quite easy to burn out if you're studying for extremely long periods of time. So definitely don't jump straight into these 6-hour study sessions. Gradually build up to that. So the overall point of this video isn't to show you that you must use my study schedule in order to do well. Instead, the point is to show you that it's very important to have a study schedule in the first place, because this helps you stay consistent. And in my opinion, consistency is the prerequisite to success. And the way to be consistent is by having a schedule. But I don't want you to think that this schedule was something that I perfected by the very first day. It was something that I gradually built up to. For example, I might only follow this schedule 1 day a week because I'm procrastinating for the other days. But then the next week, I'll try and do 2 days, and then next 3, and then 4, and then 5. As always, aim for perfection, but be content with progression. That is how you stick to a schedule. So, hope that was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.
Trying to build a dream. I've seen a lot of shit that no one ever do. Ay, feelings through the pain, that's the subtle truth. And the colors I assume they're finally coming through. Yeah. Thinking lost what I was running to. Since I can't remember, I've been chasing this dream.
This is how my schedule started.